In moments of pleasure, we all have our nervous tics, right? Yeah.
That's right, exactly. I mean, I can't speak for you, but yes, I agree.
Bradblanks, I got Stephen Merchant here. How are you, sir?
I'm very well, mate. Nice to talk to you.
Yeah. Now, how do I pitch your show as crime, a mixture of a heist, a caper, elements of great comedy. How do you pitch The Outlaws?
I feel like that's right. Comedy, drama, thriller, I think would be my approach to it. Yeah, but trying to come into the kind of crime universe, which is a well-trodden field from a slightly different perspective. In this case, people doing community service, which was actually something that my parents were involved with when I was growing up. They themselves were not criminals. I'd like to make that clear. They did 2 bank heists and then they got out of the game. No, they supervised offenders doing community service when I was growing up. And I always thought it was an interesting area for a show because you have such an unlikely mix of people doing that sort of thing. And it seemed like a great way into this sort of story.
How do you go, though, from a comedy background? I know you love these sort of movies and it has that 90s crime film edge about it. But how do you add your own comedy into this as the creator and writer?
Well, like you say, I love kind of thrillers. That's the sort of the thing I tend to watch when I'm, just in my downtime. And like you say, I love those, particularly stuff from sort of back in the day, and also kind of Hitchcock, who managed to mix humor with suspense. And so to me, it's like, trying to have something which feels characterful, feels like it exists in the real world. I mean, no disrespect to things like Lord of the Rings, but I don't really need talking trees. I'm quite cool with just, people that you'd meet down the pub. They interest me enough. And so I like real people in a real situation, but, slightly turn up the heat a bit, give it some kind of genre, fun, and hopefully, just try and make a show that I want to see, which has some humor, has some pathos, has some drama, has a heisty element to it, like you say.
I did love you with the prostitute.
Sure.
An incredible scene. Was that a funny moment to be involved with a woman of the night?
Well, it was a funny thing. And although interestingly, the reason that idea came about was there was a particularly famous British actor, you may remember, who some years ago was caught with a lady of the night in Hollywood. And I read about that story. And the thing that intrigued me was the reason he got caught was as he was receiving his pleasures, his foot was hitting against his brake pad. And that was flashing the brake lights of his parked car, and a police cruiser drove by and thought, well, that's weird, and went to investigate, and bingo. And so I just always thought that was such an unusual, funny way of someone getting in trouble with the law. And to actually get to dramatize that and play it out in real time was a real pleasure and a real thrill. And that's a good example, I think, of the tone of the show, in that is a real story or a real incident that we sort of dramatized for comic and dramatic effect. And you'd think we'd made it up, but it actually is a real thing. Well,
in moments of pleasure, we all have our nervous tics, right? Yeah.
That's right, exactly. I mean, I can't speak for you, but yes, I agree.
Now, you've got Christopher Walken in there. Historically, you've been incredible in extras. You got Robert De Niro in there. So I kind of know what sort of movies you like from the 70s, 80s, and 90s. Getting Walken, was that a huge moment?
That was a huge thrill because we wanted a character that could seem by turns funny, but also sinister, slightly mysterious, have charisma, be a bit exotic, and then just throw them into this world of very kind of suburban people. And there aren't many people on that list. And Walken's certainly number one. And, he delivered on all counts, really, because like I say, he can just turn on a dime, on screen. He can be funny and charming and then suddenly menacing or sinister, and there aren't many people that can do that, and it's really a thrill to watch that. And I think when you're working with someone like that, you very quickly just take them as another work colleague, right? You see them in the morning and like, hey, and you're bleary-eyed, you haven't had your coffee, and it's only when you get in the editing room and you see their charisma just burning through the screen that you're reminded why they've been a star for 50 years, because they just have a magnetism that you couldn't even begin to imagine or create.
Well, Stephen, you're a champion. Well done. Great to see you. I'll see you on the streets of New York one day.